next story is called The Gift of Healing. And as with all my stories, this is a true story. In the good old days, I grew up in a household which included my grandparents. Now, back then, some of the more mature women of the area, they were known for their callings. For example, Miss Donnie, she could predict the future. She could accurately predict what was going to happen in the future. Say, she could predict the sex of any unborn baby. I don't know how she did that. But even if you were in your first or second month, she could look at you, feel your stomach and say, this here baby is going to be a boy. Now, maybe it's going to be a girl. It's going to be a boy or a girl. And you wouldn't believe when that baby came, it was a boy or a girl. I don't know how she did that. That was, now Miss Flossie, she was our area meteorologist. She could predict the weather. And how she did it, she said, ooh, Lordy, my toe, that big toe is throbbing. Or she said, my bunions, they just hurting. She said, it's going to rain. It's going to rain, child. And sure enough, within 6 to 8 months, it would rain. How she did that, I don't know. And then there was Miss Mary. She could talk to spirits. Oh, wait. No, Miss Mary, she did talk to spirits, but only after she had consumed quite a bit of the liquid spirits. Now, my grandmother, she had a unique calling. She had the gift of healing. Now, the neighbors held her in reverence, but to us, she was just plain old granny. She was tough as nails, weighed 90 pounds soaking wet. And even though all her children outweighed her by at least 50 pounds, no one, not even Grandpa, would dare cross her. You see, Granny was special. She had the gift of healing. And besides, Granny had a razor-sharp tongue and a stare that could cut through steel. Granny said the gift had been passed down in our family. And I always hoped that someday she'd pass her gifts on to me. Now, some of the things I learned from my granny, prepare to be amazed. Okay. Tobacco spit juice would ease the pain from bee stings. Fight back, fat back would fight infection and reduce swelling. Pea, plain old household pea, would clear the pink eye. Spider webs would stop bleeding, reduce swelling. Baking soda and water would ease indigestion. Garlic water lowered high blood pressure. Sugar and turpentine would kill worms, cut worms in children. Lard, plain old lard, on a leg sore would kill bacteria. But you had to let your dog lick it first. Now, Granny's legendary cure for the common cold made us well fixed financially. See, she'd have you drink heaps of liquids. Now, that's liquids, not liquor. And she'd have you rest of plenty. And she'd guarantee you in 3 to 5 days that cold would be pretty near gone. Astonishing, wasn't she? And my granny was witty and her thinking was deep. While a particular ailment was complex and granny was preplex, she'd say, this here ailment's going to be harder to cure than times and 29. Or this here one going to be harder to figure out than Chinese arithmetic. My granny had a whole heap of sayings. And one was, where there's a will, there's a way. And my granny had a will not to do any real work and a way to get others to do it for her. Nothing she wanted done went undone. She'd sit on that porch and she'd talk you through any of her chores until they were done perfectly to her satisfaction. And then she'd boost you up by telling people she had the patience to sit and teach you to do her chore properly. Now, Papa said Granny was lazy, but he never said it loud enough for my Granny to hear. You see, because Granny had a saying, if in your love something cheering, set it free. If it returns, it was meant to be. If it don't, hunt it down and kill it. Now, Granny's all-time favorite saying when she was really ticked off was, of all the folks I was aiming to shoot, as soon as I can afford me some bullets, you gonna be the first. Now, that kind of talk scared my papa. He never said anything, but it made him angry when Granny ignored him. But Granny claimed she just couldn't hear Papa. But she later confided in me. She had, what did she call it? Situational hearing. If the situation was on her side, she heard you. If not, she didn't. Now, over her objections, Papa ordered Granny a hearing aid, a hearing contraption from the Sears and Roebuck catalog. That thing squeaked a lot and nearly drove my Granny crazy. So one night, after finally deciding she was tired of trying to please Papa by wearing that hearing contraption, which she didn't really need, she simply gave it back to Papa. But the problem was, Papa was asleep. He had no idea Granny had returned his expensive gift. You see, Granny just simply took that hearing contraption and very gently laid it on Papa's chest. Now, when the call of nature came, as it sometimes does in the middle of the night, Papa answered. See, he knew better than to wet my Granny's bed. He got up and proceeded to go out to the outhouse. But as he sat up, he felt what he perceived to be a bug move across his chest. Now you gotta understand, my Papa hated crawling things, especially when they invaded his home, and even more so when they touched his person, because my Papa was icky, sticky clean. So he grabbed it, and he threw it to the floor, and he grabbed his heavy work boots, and he proceeded to pound the life out of that vicious, blood-sucking, disease-carrying, slimy, beady-eyed bug. Granny woke up. Asked Papa, was he trying to wake the dead? Papa showed Granny that hearing contraption he had killed. My Granny sure enough was happy when she saw that dead hearing contraption. But my Papa felt bad for having killed it. Told Granny he'd order her another one right away. But of course, my Granny's situation hearing just kicked right on in. And then, children, let me tell y'all about the time my Granny cured Papa of his paralysis from a debilitating stroke. See, Papa woke up because his arm was itching, and he reached over and he scratched his arm. But then he realized he felt nothing. So he reached over and he scratched again a little harder, and still he felt nothing. Ooh, y'all. Papa got to hooping and hollering and yelling and screaming. He was hitting, he was beating on that arm. And Granny woke up and asked her, what in Jesus' name ail you? Papa said, Lizzie, I'm paralyzed. I can't feel my arm. Granny said, of course not, you fool. That's my arm you are beating and a rubbing and a hitting on. Y'all, when word got around how fast my Granny had cured Papa of his paralysis, folks from miles around came for Granny's healing remedies. And you know what? Between y'all and me, Papa never told anyone he had been in the sauce that night. And you know what else? Before my Granny went on home to show the good Lord and Master how to do things right, she passed her healing remedies on to me. That's right. So, in case any of you are in need of some healing, cheap, they let me out of the institution on a pass every other weekend. And for a few dollars, I want y'all to know, I'll be glad to cure what ails you. Thank you.
I'm often asked to do things for certain occasions at my church and back home. And this particular one was for Black History Month. And I didn't have anything, to be honest with you. I kind of work best, when I'm under the gun. So I was sitting there one night, at my kitchen table, and I had like 2.5 days to go. And it was too late to change the program. My name was already on it. So, and then again, I knew Harriet was going to be dependent on me. She'd always told me, she said, I know you're going to be great. And I was waiting. She tells me that every time. I'm just waiting. I know it's going to be great. So that was added pressure. So I'm sitting there, and I'm going through all kinds of stuff. And I wanted it to be something that people could relate to. I wanted it to be something that was light and upbeat. I wanted it to be something that was fun, that would make people laugh. Now, I never thought like that before. But again, I credited that to Harriet Davis. So I'm sitting there, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just do a poem. I'd seen people do poems before. No problem, I can do a poem. I can even make a poem up. So I was sitting there, and I got on my phone, and I Googled poems, and all of a sudden, the poem, The Night Before Christmas, came up. Now, that's a pretty long poem. And the thing about it was, it so intrigued me that I read it. It wasn't even Christmas, but I read through the poem. And then all of a sudden, I realized I had my answer. And so I came up with this poem that I'd like to share with you all now. I think it's appropriate. I think it's humorous. I think it's meaningful. And I think in some points it's spiritual. I titled it, A Vision Before Freedom. It was a vision from Black history about 1863. Not a Negro was stirring, just a prayer for slaves to be free. The fields were at harvest and cabins just full of nappy hair in hope that Abe Lincoln would do what was fair. Black ancestors courageous, all wise as they led, while visions of equality danced in their head. Big Mama in her apron and Grandpa just right over there had just finished singing, Take It to the Lord in Prayer. When 200 years later there arose Martin Luther King, I sprang from my bed to live my own dream. Away to the window I stood looking through, envisioning all the black inventors and what they were able to do. The moon of the breast of the new fallen snow, and Tubman's Underground Railroad, always on the go. When what to my wondering eyes should appear, the buffalo soldiers riding far and near. With grace, civil rights came lively and quick. I knew in that moment education was a trick. More rapid than eagles, Jesse Owens his name, and he ran so fast, he put Hitler to shame. Now Sally Davis, now Oscar Davis, now Wilkes Flaggs and Bertha Slater, on Lucille Swint, on Blade Hewley, on James Lunsford and Quentin Howell, to the top of the stairs, to the top of the class. Now educate, elevate, Black history has swag. As soft cotton was picked under a hot southern sky, while generations to come would take wing and fly. So up to the courthouse in 1965 to vote, because the caged bird sings when it has hope. And then in the twinkling, I heard in the night, Otis Redding, the Jackson 5, and oh yeah, Barry White. As I drew in my head and I was turning around, I could see all the church choirs just getting down. Black history was dressed to the nines, from his head to his feet. Alligator shoes, jerry curls, and big afros so neat. Bundles of talent flung on Black history's back. Norm Nixon, Sarah Davis, Omar Reed, proud to be black. Black inventions, how they twinkled. Black fashion, how merry. Black women like roses. And our own Deacon Falk would say, Halle Berry. Black history's mouth grew courageous and bold, shouting pride into generations, many untold. The stump of a pipe Grandpa always kept ready, with a George Washington Carver sandwich of peanut butter and jelly. My face all stained from a memory's tear, just wondering why Black history only 1 month of the year. Black history is crucial and must be kept on bookshelves. It has always taught us to cry and laugh even at ourselves. A wink of history's eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. History spoke not a word and went straight to his work and filled all our lives with value and worth. Besides laying his hands to love and to heal, he fed a multitude of people a good soul food meal. History hung on a cross, yet still he forgave. He was always a joy and hope of the slave. But I heard him exclaim, "You're always in my sight." Black history is for all, and your future is bright. Amen, and thank you very much.